Okay, so this is just going to be a bit of a ramble. But for the most part, I think what I'm essentially getting at with my message here is it's okay to just be your most authentic self. And what I mean by that is it's okay to be basic. I think that's perfectly fine. Um, so, in terms of the landscape of really the Harry Thomas Pictures to Inside Out pipeline, is a pipeline that I would say I most identify with. Um, Mines aren't on the extremes of, say, Harry nor Inside Out fan. I would say mine definitely come from a more complicated place. And in terms of right now in life, in terms of how I experience media, is definitely far different from how things were on Speed Force Spectre. It's part of the reasons why I'm not dissing myself from the Speed Force Spectre name. That's just going to be an iconic name for just my Twitter identity and also kind of like my YouTube identity. But it's the reason why I've made alternative accounts because I've just grown past Speed Force Spectre, and that's totally fine. Um, but also at the same time, though, I can acknowledge my complicated past. But I think it's the reason why I'm so kind of invested in the whole Inside Out fan to Harry Thomas pipeline is because I exist in that culture sphere. Um, I would say this. I most identify with like the physical media side. I've never really done a physical media video outside of my Baby Shark DVD player that I used to own. Outside of that one instance, I would say that's the only time I've really been, say, physical media collector. Um, I would say I mostly belong in the more animated, family friendly reviewing sphere, but I've gone outside of that ish with like comic media and just non comic media too. Just ever so slightly, but not a lot. But I would say I most identify with those communities just because that just feels like what I grew up on when I was watching YouTube for the most part, and those to me make the most sense. I think one of the biggest problems I would say is in this day and age, whether you're a preteen, teenager, or even a young adult, I think a lot of people get inspired by the users that they watch. And I'm going to be honest with you, I can't say I'm remotely shocked that it's in the form of media discussion or physical media collection or just like collecting in general. I'm generally not shocked that this is the community. Um, just because I think that it's a community where you get to show your interest in terms of the media you enjoy. And I think that's a wonderful and beautiful thing. There's just a huge but to it. I will say this in terms of my personal journey, in terms of this sort of landscape. Mine comes in the form of the animation community more than anything else. But there's some live action stuff that is also part of this too. But for the most part, I have more so problems with animated film discussion and TV discussion than I do so more so live action. And that's simply because when I watch live action things, if there's a fandom to it, cool, great, amazing. But like, I'm not really searching out like minded people in terms of most live action content. It just is what it is. Um, but when it comes down to animated stuff, at first it seems chill, cool, many diverse people showing their interests. Some are like-minded like me, some aren't. Maybe I might check out that media and, you know what, this thing doesn't look that great. Maybe I'm going to be open-minded and check it out. If not, oh well, too bad, so sad, whatever. It is what it is. You can kind of see how chill and laid back my attitude is, and simply because that's just how the community just was back in the day. A very chill, easygoing discussion. But then over the years, that just changed. More and more, Grace Randolph started to act crazy. Someone like Animat randomly disrespecting Sony Pictures Animation. Those things started to become the norm. And once that started to become the norm, everyone and their uncle just started doing it. And don't get me started on grifters. But for the most part, things, when you first start out, things seem fun, chill, easygoing. But then once you get into the more messy sides of it and it becoming just the norm, it is what it is, it definitely dampers and harms the community. And I feel like that harmed the Harry Thomas to Inside Out fan pipeline. And I'm going to be real, I feel personally attached to this community, not both of the users, mind you, but in a way it reminds me of my past and what I was interested in. I'm still interested in it, mind you. But it does remind me of how things just got messy. And I feel like Harry Thomas is a perfect example of this. Like, I'm just going to be real. I don't really view Harry Thomas as this big internet user. I personally just see Harry Thomas as some random dude talking about media. And I feel like that's kind of where Inside Out fan just kind of went wrong. I think that Inside Out fan didn't see the human and saw the, ooh, OMG, glitz and glamour-y big YouTuber reviewer. And I think that's one thing that could really solve the whole Harry Thomas community thing, is seeing people as regular people. I can say this in terms of like where I am at life. I've experienced media with my friend, and I've experienced media with my more safer family members that I feel comfortable with. And I've honestly had more fun with media in that way in years than I have on the internet. And here's the thing, not dismissing the online friends I've made along the way, and we're still chill and we still talk about media. Not dismissing you guys, I just mean this in terms of a broad stroke sort of thing. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I think one of my biggest problems with media discussion nowadays is the parasocial dynamic. I think that's become a huge problem, but I think the Harry Thomas fandom to Inside Out Pipeline fandom, I think they can all rid this problem if everyone saw each other as just regular people. Simply because I feel like when you look at people as people, I think you're able to see who that person is through the media that they enjoy. And I'm gonna be real, not everyone can talk about media professionally. And I think that's okay. Being a basic of basic bitches is totally fine. I feel like that's something that's very frowned upon, simply because it seems like you can go along with anything and you'll enjoy anything that's presented to you right in front of your face. Or it removes a lot of the complexities of talking about media. And, for me, it just, in terms of being a Trolls fan, it sucks that, people just, look downly on others for enjoying something like Trolls or even Illumination or Minions. And, that sucks. Especially for, I can say this in terms of someone like Inside Out fan. It's very clear that Inside Out fan very much wants to be in a space where Inside Out fan is accepted for the media they enjoy without any, I don't want to say harm, but more so being judged for enjoying those things. Inside Out fan has not conducted themselves in a good light at all. So I'm not, I'm not going, ooh, woo, poor Inside Out fan. No, not at all. But when you look at how Inside Out fan conducts themselves, it's very much in the sense that they want that. And I can look at the side from Harry Thomas and why Inside Out fan has such an issue with Harry. And that's simply because, like I've talked about before, Harry does put down others if they enjoy a thing that Harry doesn't like. And I feel like that is an issue. I feel like Harry doesn't really open a proper dialogue to welcome different views and perspectives than Harry's. And I think this is why Harry had the whole parasocial problem that he did in the past and, created an individual like Inside Out fan. And I think really at the end of the day, I think a huge lesson and takeaway we need to learn is that people are made individually and they're not going to be a hive mind. And sadly, I think Harry wanted to create a hive mind, whether that was intentionally or unintentionally. And I think now hearing Harry saying they want to do better, I definitely feel like Harry definitely did this unintentionally, and I think that's perfectly fine. I can't speak for Harry personally, but I think that this was it just happened unintentionally. And I think even with Harry has his own problems of wanting to be accepted as well with the media they enjoy. And I think that at the end of the day, I think that a lot of problems could be solved if everyone was just open to be just more healthy and just more open to discuss things and be prepared for differing views and perspectives, but at the same time, not doing it in a way that's insulting. Because I feel like that's, in terms of animation, in terms of that, I feel like many people are insulted because it's not, say, insert random hyped movie of the day that's quote unquote pseudo mature or whatever. Maturity in animation is a very complicated thing that I'm not getting into, but it's a huge problem the animation fan landscape has. But I think that really for the most part, I think the way I think Harry and Inside, but mostly Harry, in terms of, since they kind of created this fandom, or not fandom, but community, I think that, like, the way I look at it is, I don't think Harry would want to make a video and then randomly a whole bunch of people are jumping Harry just simply because they enjoy that thing. I feel like because of that, it just kind of, it breeds insecurity, and of course you're going to get very defensive. And believe me, I've been there, of course, with the Trolls franchise, and, it breeds a lot of problems. It breeds toxicity, and I can acknowledge that in a way I did breed some sort of toxicity, whether that be negative or positive. And that's not great. And I think that if collectively we can all come together and just kind of, feel like we could freely discuss, I think things would be a lot better for these communities. Okay, so another thing. I think that a lot of people, in these reviewing landscapes, and I've said it before, they always say things like, oh, you should never baby your audience. You should never say buzzwords like, in my opinion, if you think differently, that's okay. And I will just gladly say it. My issue with these buzzwords are just simply the biggest problems. Everyone that tends to do this, hate to be mean, but they tend to be assholes. I'm just going to be blunt and just simplistically say it. And I'm a real, these videos that I hear them on, and they're typically on things that I'm personally interested in, and I can acknowledge a bias. However, I can also acknowledge when a video is actually good and, are well aware of a different perspective and are kind and respectful and are welcoming of a new perspective. But see, here's a little bit of the tea, though. These users tend to leave out information, tend to paint a picture that's not in the actual media itself. So there's a lot of problems in that aspect in regard. Again, if you're going to talk about anything, even if you're the most casual person, make sure that if the thing you're talking about has a physical release or digital or whatever, and you could easily go back to that media. And I know that's a little bit harder when you see a movie in theaters one time. So my recommendation in terms of if you're seeing a movie in theaters, go in with an open mind and do your best to remember things. If not, honey, just wait for DVD or something. Because you would rather be spreading, information that's actually in the film than not. But anyway, I'm not saying baby people, absolutely not. Hell no, I don't want to be treated not my age. However, I think a lot more people should be more sensitive. And I'm more so looking at this from a more Harry Thomas to Inside Out fan pipeline because it's the pipeline that I'm talking about. And I generally think that this community needs to come in with more caring and understanding perspectives. Because I'm going to be completely honest with you. For me, I am, I'm in a different place in life and I can acknowledge that, for the most part, I am a very sensitive person. You have to, you gotta, be careful and try to word things the best you can. And I'm gonna be honest with you, people have done a good job of that. And, sometimes I have to understand myself too and how to navigate those things. But I'm gonna be real, I think mental health is kind of like a missing factor in the Harry Thomas and Inside Out fan community that's not really talked about. And I generally think that, people should be more sensitive in this community. I think that a lot of people should kind of acknowledge how media can impact others. And a lot of people in this fandom are on the autistic spectrum. So there is that to be very much mindful in this community, but also at the same time, there could be people, I'm not in this community, mind you, but for me, I have a lot of trauma and things I'm unpacking and things of that nature. And you kind of just don't know what someone's home life could be, or life experiences could be. And I think that if you conduct yourself in a more caring and more understanding perspective, I think that things could go a lot more smoother than how things were handled previously in the Harry Thomas to Inside Out fan community. Again, a huge thing that I think the way this fandom could improve on is if you're seeing a movie in theaters, maybe do just kind of a theater first impression, and then if you're going to review the movie later on, then I would say that's more of a place where you could definitely talk about the media a lot more easier. You got more notes you can take, a lot more things you didn't pick up on or things you misread, things of that nature. You have the better tools under your belt compared to the theater experience. Maybe a way the Harry Thomas and Inside Out fan community spectrum could definitely change in their video styles is maybe do a theater first impression video and then later a more of a DVD digital streaming service updated review. I think that would probably go wonders. But also at the same time, I think that could also engage the community better. I think that from the moment you see something in theaters and someone talking in the comment section down below about their experience, how they view characters, plot, etc., I think that might be something that you go, okay, I didn't pick up on that. I may have saw this the first time when it's on DVD, digital, etc., maybe I'll get a new perspective. And if not, maybe there's things I picked up on differently, or, what, my opinion didn't change from my theater experience, but, let's update some things. I think those things could probably cause a more healthier, understanding community. I think a lot more things could be more understood from a different user's perspective without attacking them or making them feel lesser. And honestly, I think that in doing these things that, it could improve the morale and, psyche of everyone. I think that all around, that could probably cause some good vibes all around without fighting, but, agreeing to disagreeing, or, I didn't think of things that way, etc., etc. I think that better communication in this fandom could, probably improve for the better. And I think, sensitivity and, being a bit more proactive in your community to make the discussion a bit better, these are things that could probably work and improve things a bit more. Okay, so again, like I said at the beginning of the video, this is kind of just a ramble, really. But I think for me personally, and what I have learned personally, and just in terms of my experience, is that, I wasn't built to be a Grace Randolph level figure. I know I bring up Grace, but I'm going to be pretty honest with you. In terms of my journey, I've been shocked to know that a lot of people are like, oh man, I wanted to be the next Grace Randolph. So I'm just using her as an example, but I think a lot of us just aren't built to be professional. Even with a lot of the animated YouTubers that started small and then became, bigger names in the animation review landscape, even them, they didn't start professional. They just kind of got hired up to a higher degree and level. But it's more so of a subscriber count thing. If they got updated visuals, things of that nature, they worked their way to that point. But in all honesty, for me personally, I'm just a very casual, basic bitch. And you know what? That's perfectly fine. Accepting that and knowing my limitations and things of that nature, I've grown to be a bit healthier. I've conducted myself a little bit better than what I used to. But also at the same time, though, I can say one positive thing is that I've surrounded myself with people that are willing to listen and understand and, have a different view and, just kind of, those people want to have an actual dialogue. And I think that's really one thing that I think, the Harry to Inside, I think that's something that a lot of these users just have to accept. They're just basic, everyday people that just want to be part of a community that loves talking about film, things they collect, and things of that nature. They want to talk about the things that they love, but they just have the wrong ideas and the wrong tools and things of that nature to really conduct themselves to create a positive and healthy community and things of that nature. And I think that really just at a basic level, accepting that you're just basic is fine. I talked about this earlier, but I know that's heavily frowned upon to be a basic person talking about media. How dare you? But, sometimes that's just perfectly fine. It is what it is. Embracing that, I think that's something that people should do in this community. Embrace that you're not a high-level professional. You are just you, and just, work on you doing you when you come on to a internet platform, and, talk about media a lot more healthier. Try to conduct yourself a lot better. I think that this whole fandom could easily not change overnight, but I think that over the course of months and years, I think the community could look a lot better. And I'd argue there would be honestly a much bigger community that's its own niche. And I'm going to be real, the ideals of media discussion and physical media collectors, I mean, it's a niche within itself that has kind of blurred together and kind of been homogenized. I think embracing that homogenization and creating your own communities is probably for the best. And I think in doing so, I think that, a lot more cliques and niches can come together and blossom, a positive and more open community. And I think that really, I just this whole ramble as a whole, I think could, maybe improve things. I don't know, but here's hoping.